Before I get into this, I'd like to give a quick introduction of why I'm going to do this. Wife suffered a miscarriage, and it affects both of us. And I thought maybe reading this would help me, maybe help others, help my wife. So I'm going to go through, I may do a chapter video or whatever. You can follow along. I'll try to put the name of the book in the description. Maybe even try to find the Amazon link if you would like to follow along so you could buy it. But yeah, I'd like to get it started. The name of the book is called Hannah's Hope by Jennifer Saake, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. All right, I'm going to skip. It says Hannah's Hope, Seeking God's Heart in the Midst of Infertility. All right, I think this video will be the introduction and chapter 1. Introduction. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23, verses 1 through 4. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Quote from Robert Frost. Allow me to introduce you to my dear friend Hannah, whom I've never met. How did I come to call Hannah my friend without even meeting her? She is my companion because we share a common heartbeat. Hannah's heart pounded with a mother's love long before she was blessed with a child to mother. Through the years of waiting and longing, her gentle heart was nearly crushed under the weight of grief. Find her story recorded in 1 Samuel 1 and 2. In today's terminology, we would say that Hannah was either infertile, unable to conceive within 1 year of regular marital relations without the use of birth control, or unable to carry a child to live birth, or sterile, permanently unable to produce the genetic materials required to conceive a child. By simply describing Hannah as barren, the Bible does not give us many specific details about her medical condition. What we do know is that Hannah suffered heartache, anguish, and grief because of her empty arms. Are you a Hannah too? If motherhood is your goal and you are disillusioned in trying to reach the destination, keep reading. This book is written for every family that longs for a child yet to be conceived, that grieves for a baby too soon passed from the womb into heaven, or that has lived through the no man's land of failed adoption. It is intended as a guide to assist you in decisions as you struggle through grief. By the end of this journey, God may surprise you by the methods He uses to answer your heart's cry. Or perhaps you are a burden bearer for a loved one on such an odyssey. If you are a pastor, friend, or family member who desires to help someone through this valley, I offer my most sincere gratitude for your compassion, and I'll offer suggestions to you. When yearning for motherhood, years become measured in months and cycles. Of the first 11 years of my marriage, that's over 140 chances for pregnancy, if counting 28-day cycles. More than 10 years were spent actively striving to grow our family. If my husband Rick and I weren't aggressively trying to conceive or longingly seeking to adopt, we were anxiously praying to sustain troubled pregnancies and grieving our many losses along the way. What a long, weary journey it has been. I must admit to finishing this book from the other side of the infertility expedition, now with 2 living blessings to fill our lives with all the laughter, dirty fingerprints, scattered toys, and bedtime hugs we so long for. But before you stop reading and walk away feeling me to be disqualified to address this tender topic, please know that this book has been actively in the writing process for many years. Much of what I share on these pages is pulled directly from my private journals, recording all the anger, grief, longing, isolation, questions, struggles, tears, sorrows, and even joy, relief, excitement, and answered prayers along the way. While we are now parents, it is a life-altering battle that led us here. Hormonal imbalances, reproductive abnormalities, immune system dysfunction, and the desire for a larger family remain our realities. As founder of a ministry called Hannah's Prayer, I have learned much from thousands of amazing families who have trusted me with their plan as they have grieved for children. Am I qualified to guide you on this exploration of Hannah's heart? I pray that you will find it to be so. While it was indeed a road less traveled, this winding way of childlessness was one I did not choose to tread. I often limped along this uphill trail, kicking and fighting my way through the dense underbrush of discouragement. But through the journey, God provided green pastures where my aching soul could draw comfort from the recognition that my loving Heavenly Father approved the course before allowing me to take my first step. When I first met Hannah, I defined myself exclusively as infertile, leading a barren life without hope. With my course on this less frequented path plotted against my will, there was one fork in the road that did require my decision. Would I choose bitterness and self-destruction, or growth and renewed hope? The seemingly easier path was anger with God. But I needed to choose the trail that would truly make all the difference. In slowly finding kinship with Hannah, I realized that my fertility challenges need not destroy me. Intense anger and bitterness have been replaced by a peace that comes from only God. I want to bring the historical account of Hannah's life alive for you, as it has been for me. Each chapter begins with a brief fictionalized look at a portion of Hannah's story. I've taken the liberty of imagining some of the details of Hannah's infertility journey, basing them on the historical context in which she lived and on my own experience with barrenness. While reflecting on Hannah's heart, I will also share pieces of my story, along with the stories of other families facing fertility challenge. Through all this, I found that when I shift my focus from my human inabilities and infertility and seeks God's strength to surmount fertility challenges according to His guidance, hope is rekindled. In getting to know this woman of old, I pray that the reflections of Hannah's heart will direct you to the source of her strength, whose name is the God of all comfort. Prologue. My story. Since early childhood, I had imagined I'd grow up to raise 8 kids. Our August 1992 wedding was quickly followed by the active pursuit of parenthood. By then, Rick and I dreamed of at least 4 through birth, adoption, or both, however God might provide. In April 1994, we hadn't become pregnant yet, but received our first serious adoption lead. For 36 joyful hours, we prepared our hearts and home for the preschool-age son and daughter we believed could soon be joining us. But God had another family plan for these children, and we had to let them go. After 2 years of medical fertility assistance, we stepped back from treatments in October of 1994, having exhausted our insurance, finances, and emotional reserves. We refocused our energies and began forming Hannah's Prayer Ministries, a Christian infertility support network. Though I rarely ovulated even on fertility drugs, my body experienced a rebound reaction to the cessation of monthly rounds of clothing. To our surprise, we conceived our first biological child in early December. Noel was miscarried December 26, 27. God brought many adoption possibilities into our lives over the following years. Sometimes we easily saw that leads wouldn't work out, but we believed parenthood to be imminent, and with each of 5 more children, only to reap shattered hope and empty arms at the end of each encounter. A young woman with a history of past abortions was able to carry her baby to live birth in 1995 because she knew adoption was an option. Just weeks before birth, we learned of her ultimate decision to parent her daughter. In 1996, God called us to a painful season of supporting a friend through a pregnancy that would eventually allow her to place her son in the arms of another family. After the emotional drain of that experience, we stepped back from any adoption attempts for the next couple of years. We dabbled in fertility treatments again, but didn't have the financial resources to pursue the aggressive treatments doctor recommended. By now, several medical conditions that inhibited our fertility were also significantly impacting my overall health. I underwent my first surgery for endometriosis, where we discovered my uterine deformity, a bicornuate or heart-shaped uterus that could cause pregnancy complications and loss. About this time, I also found a doctor who was willing to prescribe groundbreaking medication to address my PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome, failure to ovulate, acne, excess weight gain, and overall health decline by dealing with underlying issues of insulin resistance. In January of 1999, we learned of a young mother in the next state, in labor at that very moment, wanting to meet us. I'd been ready to pursue adoption again for quite a while, but this was the first time Rick shared my desire after the scars of previous losses. Hope sprung as we packed our bags to meet our daughter, but the next phone call never came. A few months later, a single woman I had previously supported through high-risk pregnancy and infant death called to explain that she was again pregnant and would like us to adopt her new baby. Soon thereafter, she learned the baby was twins. As I prayed specifically for twins since I was only 3 years old, this seemed like a dream come true. Our dream shattered the moment her state social services brought to light her history of mental illness and ongoing adoption scams. She'd never been pregnant, even when I'd previously supported her during pregnancy complications and infant death. At the same time she was telling us we were the only family right for her children, she was leading along at least 5 other families in as many states. I felt used, angry, hurt, lonely, and lost in a sea of grief. We had been praying to grow our family for 6.5 years and faced the deaths, emotional or physical, of our first 8 children. Through a series of God-ordained circumstances, we headed into higher levels of fertility treatment and began injecting my body full of hormones. 3 IUI cycles later, we received the phone call of our lives, a positive pregnancy test. While my initial hormones level were excellent, even indicating the possibility of multiples, pregnancy got off to a rocky start with early bleeding and cramping. It was a bittersweet relief to find one but only one beautiful heartbeat on the ultrasound screen. I struggled with severe morning sickness the entire pregnancy, only gaining a net total of 6 pounds. By the Lord's exceeding grace, Joshua was born on December 22, 1999, full term and healthy, but weighing under 5 pounds. It took 3 more pregnancies before we learned the reason for his low birth weight was not due to my lack of weight gain, but caused by an immunity issue that untreated results into 80 to 89% gestational mortality rate. Since it had taken so long the first time, we didn't take any break from trying to conceive after Joshua's birth. This time it only took a year to conceive, using over-the-counter progesterone supplements but no other infertility intervention. However, Joel's miscarriage began about 3 days after we realized I was pregnant. LPD, luteal phase defect, a shortened post-ovulation phase of the monthly cycle, and progesterone levels insufficient to sustain pregnancy, was the diagnosed cause of his death. I started monthly prescription progesterone treatment and was shocked by another positive pregnancy test just 3 months later. This baby shared Joshua's due date from 2 years prior, the exact timing I'd hoped for between children. When bleeding started 2 days later, my progesterone dosage was increased, but not in time to save Hannah's life. More than a year passed without another conception, and the Lord began to soften our hearts toward adoption yet again. We felt led to investigate international adoption and were in the early stages of working with an agency to find a daughter in China. When other 2-year-olds were watching Blue's Clues and Thomas the Tank Engine, Joshua's favorite was our orientation video with all the faces of children in Chinese orphanages. In January of 2002, I landed back in the operating room for what was suspected to be a simple 45-minute laparoscopy to remove mild endometriosis. Instead, during the 3.5-hour procedure, my doctor found severe adhesions and asked Rick to allow him to remove a tube and ovary. Rick refused to make that decision without me, so I came out of anesthesia to learn that I would have to return to surgery within the next 3 to 6 months. Probably 3. I now had a less than 5% chance of ever again conceiving. I received this startling news with uncommon peace. With at least 3 of our biological children in heaven, rather than on earth, pregnancy was a fearful prospect. Though I grieved that I might not carry another child, it was a relief to think that the struggle and month-to-month wondering would soon be behind us. My heart was already in China, and I was willing for my body to be done with this long journey. When I wasn't feeling well a couple weeks before my next surgery date, I attributed it to my recent stop and progesterone supplementation. I took a pregnancy test on a whim and actually threw it away, thinking it defective, when a second line popped up. But God had done what doctors could not do. With only minor medical intervention, we were expecting a child who statistically should never have been conceived nor carried. Early testing revealed my elevated IgM levels, the factor we now believe to have caused IUGR, intrauterine growth retardation, for Joshua. I took blood thinners on a daily basis for the rest of the pregnancy, accompanied by monthly ultrasound growth checks. Preterm contractions caught us by unhappy surprise in my 25th week. I was put on a combination of activity restrictions and bed rest for the next 13 weeks, along with medication to arrest labor as the pregnancy progressed. Ruth weighed in nearly 6.5 pounds when she was born on January 25, 2003. After 12 years with 2 living children, is our family complete? We honestly don't know. For the first time in our married lives, we are no longer actively seeking to grow our family. Yet we are open to God's will if His plan is otherwise. Expecting that childbearing will only grow continually harder for my body, we aren't planning on any more biological children. But then we weren't expecting to conceive Ruth either. Adoption still holds a tender spot in our hearts, and we wonder if God may yet lead us back down this path sometime in the future. I want to thank you all for tuning into this. That was the introduction and the prologue. Next video, I will start on chapter 1, called Family Ties. Again, I appreciate if you listen to this. It's a hard subject, but me and Mama Sweet believe, we have to support others that have gone through this. Miscarriage is a hard thing to go through, but know you're not alone. And with that, I'm going to say good night, and I hope you all have a blessed night and a blessed day tomorrow. God loves you all.